the lowest win total and work our way upwards. So for the NFC North, which is a pretty packed division, we have the Vikings at 7.5 wins. Matt, why do you think they could go over or under 7.5 wins? Anything that's standing out to you when you look at the Vikings this season?
So, yeah, I think they're going to go under 7.5. And the reason that I think this is, I was actually just having this conversation with my buddy James Coe yesterday, and clearly been away from podcasting too long. Obviously dealing with the personal situation in my life the last couple of weeks. One of the things I thought, though, being away from shows, I get the notification that JJ McCarthy is going to miss the entire season, and I know there are many. I used to call you Sam Darnold sickos. Now that there seemingly are so many of you in positions of power, like yourself, Nate Tice, with your own podcast.
I'm looking around. There's a lot of us now.
Yeah, now it's like the Sam Darnold oligarchs, because there's a small group of you, but you're in positions of power with microphones and ability to influence the brains of the masses out there, or at least trick the masses, more like it. And I get that we're all, and I say we, that you Sam Darnold sickos, you oligarchs, are excited about the football experiment of taking Sam and throwing him into this, quote, good ecosystem here in Minnesota with a good play caller and the best receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. But are we not in danger, Nate, of getting to October and just being like, what are we doing all year with the Sam Darnold? Like, we're going to just start Sam Darnold for 17 games? Or if Sam plays his way out of the job, are we turning back to Nick Mullins? Like, they pick up Brett Rippon today? We could be getting to, we could be getting, like, the clock could be striking midnight on an utterly meaningless season rather quickly in Minnesota if this doesn't get off the rails well.
Let me get through one game before I have to throw cold water on myself. Trust me, I know the repercussions of being a Darnold guy. It has been a lot of fun. I had the repercussions of being a Ritter guy. I totally get this. Don't make me pull up some 2022 Sam Darnold Carolina Panther highlights. The little 4-game window where he was showing all the good stuff. I totally get this. Even looking at the offensive ecosystem, I was kind of studying the offensive line a little bit. I'm like, are you that good? Darisaul's pretty good. O'Neal's pretty good, but the interior's not, Bradbury's
questionable.
Ingram's not overwhelming. He's been better. I think with Ingram, it went from the worst starter in the league to like, oh, you're okay now. Like you actually can see the field now. Bradbury's not a needle mover or anything at center. Their run game last year was 26th in EPA per rush, and they have better running backs this year, a little more explosive guys that actually can open their eyes and see a hole. But I'm also curious if they throw in some Sam Darnold legs. So that's Sam Darnold running the ball, QB runs is what I'm pretty excited about to see it. But I do want to say this. Sam Darnold, who's making less than $10 million this year, who is a stopgap mystery box for me. I won't even say mystery box. It's a half box that's of mystery that I still want to see if he can grow into. His first 2 years with the Jets, where they had to get rid of him, had to go to Zach Wilson, had to reset everything. He hit QBR is just one stat. He had a QBR of 45.9 and 45.6. Below average, 50 is average. Not bad for a first 2 year guy, or first 2 years of a guy. Deshaun Watson in his first 2 years starting for the Browns, 40.4 and 42.9. Rookie Sam Darnold has been better and one metric than Deshaun Watson, who's getting paid, who just got his cap extended again. They reconfigure it, but money pushed down the road. Success rate, 43.2, 43.7. Deshaun Watson, 41.6, 38.3. So all I'm saying is rookie Sam Darnold in the Jets' Adam Gasification was better than Deshaun Watson in that ecosystem that he has right now with Cleveland. That's why I'm interested in this. Just let me see it. Just let me see if before the bomb gets pulled out for me and I go, oh, this is what you are. Because I do think it's going to be exciting with the offense. He's going to push the ball. He's got Justin Jefferson. But maybe it's just me, with some wish fulfillment. Any defensive thoughts? Brian Flores thoughts? Anything about the D? I'm kind of just like they're their own thing, even if I'm not like thinking that they're going to be the elite unit.
Yeah, last year was sort of the perfect kind of what you want to do if you don't have great players. You just want to almost quite literally, because of how much blitzing they were doing and how many different pressure packages and things like that. But let's just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, or let's just throw as much as we can at quarterbacks and see if we can confuse them. This year, now that they have a few, made some additions there. There's some better players theoretically. They bring in Grenard. Obviously, I think it's kind of a 1-for-1 swap with Daniil Hunter, obviously, but I do think that's an interesting addition there. I wonder if they still have that approach, because I nothing puts, bad quarterbacks in a blender than doing things like Brian Flores did with the Vikings defense last year. I just wonder if they stick with that approach, because it's not really the way we've seen Flores called. He's been an aggressive coordinator,
Not
a lot
that
of cover
extreme.
one, but not that extreme, right?
Yeah.
So even if we dial that back a little bit, though, maybe 5%, 10% this year, we're still getting one of the more unique defenses in the league.
It's one of those, they're funky, they're hard to play against. It's almost like a Bulls defense for a few. They're not the same, but for a few years where it's like, I don't know if they're really that good, like top 5, top 6, but they're hard. Like they're just difficult to play against, but better quarterbacks and offenses will kind of game them up. I'm kind of with you on that, where I don't think it's a needle moving unit. Oh no, it's a little bit of a needle moving unit, but not a true like elite, holy crap, this team is going to carry us every single week. They can make it hard on different teams and opposing teams. But again, it's not where I'm like, yeah, they're going to actually carry this. This is going to be the forefront of the team. I am leaning 7.5 is hard, because I'm in that 7, 8, 9 win range for them. I'm going to go over, and it's not playoffs, but more of just the 8 win team. That's where I see it at, just because I do trust O'Connell. I do trust a little bit of the improvements they have run game wise. And I am a Darnold truther. And I just think that he's not going to be Kirk Cousins, but he's going to be better than Mullins. And he's going to be better than Dobbs and all these guys they had last year. And he's going to give you a little something to maybe bring some variance into Minnesota. Yeah. We'll see in a month.
I can't wait to talk to you in a month about this.
Check with me in the first week of October.
I do hate to like slam your kind of pet project before the games even start, as a guy who has plenty of pet projects at the wide receiver position.
Oh, we'll get to Carolina.
I hate to yeah, we'll get there. I hate to take the wins out of your sail immediately, but I just wanted to present the other side of it.
It's a great, actually interesting games they go against. So, because we'll know, like they go against the Giants, who Giants defense is another pet project of mine, which we'll talk about.
The interior of that offensive line against Dexter Lawrence and those guys.
That's a good little parameter here. And then 49ers, who are good, but but have some holes we'll talk about. Texas defense, good front, could get after them a little on the back end, and the Packers defense, which one of the most biggest curiosities I have in the NFL is the Packers defense. I don't want to do any spoilers, but not overwhelming matchups to start, but good kind of, where are we at? Where are we at with the Vikings? So yeah. All right, moving on to the next team in the NFC North. This is a great division, by the way. I'm like pretty fired up about it. So we're going with the Bears at 8.5 wins. Matt, over, under with the Bears. How are you feeling about them right now? Because they're getting talked about a lot by everybody right now.
Yeah, I struggled with this entire division, which is why I kind of had to come right out and say like under on the Vikings, because I feel really good about these next 3 teams, and the math has to math in some way here, and that's why one of these teams has to be under. I almost kind of want to say under for the Bears too, just because I think 8 is a perfect number. Like if they go 8 and 9 this year, I think that's a really good first season for Caleb Williams, and should be enough to continue this regime going forward and the whole thing. I just think the expectations have gotten so high for this team that, and they're the Hard Knocks team. They had the number 1 overall pick in the draft that they did not earn. It's a great situation for Caleb Williams. I'm very excited to watch this offense this year. I'm excited to see if Matt Eberflus can continue the defensive momentum that they had at the end of last year. Personnel wise, it's kind of a lot of the same group, but they worked well together at the end of last season. We just know that defense is inherently volatile. So overall, I'm optimistic about the Bears. I just think that 8.5 is truly a perfect number.
Yeah, so I know. I'm going to get my bit, and I'll still wait until whether I go over or under on them because I love this defense. Like I really do. I keep harping up as much as I'm excited to see Caleb and what he's shown in the preseason. It's been good. Like it's like, okay, this is real. You can handle an offense. This is really good. This is what we want to see on top of all the creativity stuff. The offense, I would say one thing that kind of, it's always going to come back to this is the interior of the offensive line. It's just, I'm a little antsy on it. I'm not as committed, or I'm not like as saying like, I'm not as gung-ho about it as other people are. Jenkins has looked really good, but he's always battled injuries so far in his career. The other 2 guys I think are average at best, and we just don't know if like they can hold up. So that's where I think seeing Caleb at USC with some interior pressure, really just kind of getting him off script a little too many times. That's just always going to be a concern for me, especially, as a rookie quarterback. He's good. I think he's going to be very good. Just, blemishes early on. I just do think that week in, week out, the defense is going to be more consistent than the offense. And I think that defense is a legit top 5 unit, like battling for it. Love the front. I love all the spots. The line I keep coming back to is they have 12, main guys, if you include nickel and third linebacker. 11 of them are above average or better starters. Like I truly think this defense is just loaded. It also just has how they run all their zone stuff matters too, because zone coverages is not man to man. They're just saying, we're going to squeeze you with all these good players, smart players too, who've now been in the defense. A lot of them, like you just said, returning a lot of guys, been in this defense before. There's a couple changes, but overall, a lot of the same players from last year. I'm going to end up going over here, which is just, I think, am I going to go over on all these? I'm already trying to do math.
See, that was my hesitation. Was again, I feel like the math has to math here.
I know.
I don't know about you, Nate. I did not have like my model up to project a win for every team. We're going off a little bit of vibes here.
It's notes and vibes. That's it. I have like 3 bullet points and some vibes with the pick at the end. Just seeing how I feel. No, at least no one throws this back in your face in 3 months. But it's that defense that got me fired up. The punter Taylor with that it seriously matters because it's going to pin them back, and that's why I just think that Caleb with any rookie quarterback they'll have some ups and downs. But I think it's going to be really exciting. Love the receivers. The run game will be pretty sweet. But yeah. So that's why I ended up with over. Did you end up going over? Or you?
I think I got.
Join me.
Fine, I'll go over just
because I under, and then that way we can have like a little Vikings Bears split, maybe a little.
I want to show enthusiasm for the Bears. I just really think 8 wins is a perfect number for them. So I'll go over. I'll go 9. I'll cower.
That's what I feel. I feel like it's a 9-8 team, a pretty good one. But I think next year is like the real year for them. Yeah, which makes sense. Packers next up, 9.5 wins is their projected total right now, or betting total, I should say right now. All right, Matt, we've talked a lot about the receivers, but do you want to do it again? You want to talk about the Packers pass catchers one more time?
No, talk about something I can't wait to talk about in a month. Not right now. Like I want to talk about the Packers receivers in a month so that we can see what the rotation looks like in the first 4 weeks.
Good.
Okay, this is where we're going. This is one of those things that I knew in March I was going to feel like, all right, I just want to get to week 4 and know what the answers to the test are on this one, because that will just help inform like what I think they're doing right or not. I mean, because again, the group that they emphasized early last year was not the group that was really pushing them to the playoffs at the end of last year, where they were getting Wicks more involved when Reed was a focal point. Those are the 2 guys I want to see, involved on the offense a ton, but you're not just going to totally phase out Romeo Doubs. You're not just going to totally phase out Christian Watson. Those guys are too good. I mean, I think Wicks and Reed are the best receivers on the roster, but those other guys hold important roles and bring value. So I ended up talking about it, even though I said I didn't want to talk about it. But so yeah,
it was great. It was great.
In 4 weeks, I'm going to really want to focus on that. But the more I thought about the Packers offense, just the higher I have gotten on the unit overall, because the 2 tight ends bring you such different dimensions. I think Tucker Kraft is more of a dirty work guy, but he's still a pretty dynamic pass catcher. Whereas Luke Musgrave, I think there's going to be like 2 plays a game where they get him on some kind of concept that is just infuriating for an opposing defense. And not to mention, I actually think that and maybe this is just a totally made up, fantasy argument, but there's all this kind of speculation of, the Packers signed Josh Jacobs, but they're going to have him in a rotation because Matt LaFleur always has a rotation in the backfield. But like, you really platooning, Josh Jacobs with AJ Dillon? Well, no, he's on IR. You're really going to platoon him with Marshawn Lloyd? I mean, he's been banged up this offseason. Yep. We'll see. So I actually kind of think they're going to come out hot and heavy in the first 4 weeks of the season, really leaning on Jacobs, and we'll see how that goes, because he obviously is coming off of a down season last year with the Raiders. Yeah,
and that's what's funny is LaFleur, you could tell they let him get his little veteran running back baby. Like, okay, we'll give you your guy, some vet that can play offense and or can pick up the offense quick and all that. And it was like everybody, okay, we got him. All right, now we got some depth at running back, because this is what hurt him last year. And it's just one after another. Guys just dropping like flies behind Josh Jacobs. So went from one of the things I thought they improved upon, because it's just having a warm body back there, as opposed to, a couple games, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, as Justice Mosqueda calls him, Plodzilla, plotting out there. It's one of my favorite nicknames, Plodzilla. But I I am kind of all in on this team right now because I love this offense. I love Jordan Love. I really, really like Matt LaFleur and his play calling. And because of all those receivers, like we hit on before, but Christian Watson's like their designated hitter. Like, okay, they get in the red zone, boom, they're going to design a play for him. You mentioned Luke Musgrave. He's kind of the tight end version of that. You could tell which guys LaFleur probably identified as his guys in the draft because those guys get a lot of play designs. But then you get Reed, who's, I think we both of us are in the same boat where it's like, this guy is so useful. And it's good. So it could go inside, outside. He can get designed runs. Like, yeah, like Reed is my type of receiver just because all the things he can do. Even if I'm not saying he's gonna be a star, number one Pro Bowler type, but just this is a good player. But yeah, I'm excited with all that because too, I just did a article for Yahoo where I was doing copycat things, just things I think other teams are going to start using. Cheated a little bit watching some preseason and already seeing a couple. But LaFleur had the comment going like, well, we think we have multiple receiver ones because we're going to just change who's the main guy week in, week out on the game plan. And at first, I'm like, oh, that's coach speak. Yeah, whatever. But watching what defenses are doing, Flores, who we just talked about, Spagnuolo, Spags with the Chiefs, some other guys, is they're double teaming the top receivers a lot. And this is a Belichick thing. He's been doing it for years, but they're doing double, which is both safeties are helping out and they're bracketing two of the top receivers. With the Packers, when we just talked about, I like legitimately 5-6 of their pass catchers. That's what he's talking about. Is that, okay, you guys want to double these guys? All right, well, now we got Wicks, and now we got Watson, we got somebody, Reed, we got Kraft, we got all these guys that are B level or better players. So I think they're onto something where, they're onto something, having good players. Wow, really onto something. But I just really like it. And I think this is the top 5 offense. They're spoilers, a team that I think is one of my teams I'm going to pick to have in my final 4 as making the NFC conference title game. Whether I think they win it or not, we'll see. But I just like it. They're well coached. The defense also, I like some of the improvements there. Switching defense coordinators, it can't get worse against the run. Xavier McKinney at safety, they run single high. He's really good as the post safety. They got Bullard, the rookie, to be more near the box. It's all making sense to me, especially with the pass rush, everything. So I'm over on the Packers, if you can't tell, at 9.5 wins. Yes, yeah. You are over as well. Okay, yeah, I think they're a good team and a young team. It's not all going to be perfect with young teams. They'll make mistakes, but I'm very bullish on the Packers. All right, next up, the favorites in the NFC North and one of the favorites in the NFC. That is the Detroit Lions, who are at 10.5 wins. Matt, where are you at with the Detroit Lions, the Honolulu Blue Detroit Lions? How are you doing with them right now?
I don't know that we need to have a full breakdown on the offense. Like, the offense is good. There's really no reason. You've seen it. It's probably going to be good again. We can have a conversation about exactly what Jameson Williams is, but then it might become a 2-hour podcast because every time I've done Jameson Williams content this offseason, it's been absurdly long because I think he's a player that requires so much content.
We have a Crib Notes version.
Yeah, and obviously the Lions are going to the Super Bowl because Allen Robinson's on their practice squad. So that's great to see there. Talk about a pet project I would love to see. Let's get Allen Robinson like a meaningless ring. That would be great.
How do they have Tim awesome. Patrick and Allen Robinson on their practice squad?
It's such a because like if those guys at their actual like peaks is the exact type of player that they need, but
it's perfect.
Patrick hasn't played football since 2021 and Allen Robinson hasn't played good football since 2021. So it's actually rather.
He was a de facto tight end by the Steelers last year. It was like my favorite career revolution. It's like watching Vince Carter go from like a guy doing 360 dunks to like setting screens. that's basically what I saw Allen Robinson do last year.
And it's funny because I actually think that's a great role for him, but he's playing on the Steelers offense, who cares? So we'll see if one of those guys can actually emerge because it's kind of the type of receiver that they need. But I do think Jameson Williams is going to make an impact for this team. Just is he going to be more of a consistent wide receiver 2, like just the number 2 guy that they need, or is he going to be more of a splash big play threat? Like either way, I think it's a boost to the offense. So it's kind of like not a question. It's not really a huge debate at this point. They're just expecting big things out of him, which I think you should at this point. The bigger question for me is just on the defense. Like how high can this defense fly? Because talk about another coordinator who wants to be aggressive, wants to play man coverage, or wants to beat you up at the line of scrimmage with the defensive backs. That is Aaron Glenn. And I think the longer that the season wore on, the more faith they had in the personnel, the more they started to they lean into that style of defense with Aaron Glenn. And, you look at this group, obviously I think the Carlton Davis trade was a pretty good move. Davis is a bit of a volatile cornerback. Cornerback's a volatile position in general, but he's been one of my favorites to watch receivers go against over the last few years, just because he can't give guys. Yeah, it's a true battle, you know, and that I think will be interesting in this style of defense if he can hang on and give you a couple of good, maybe at least one good season here. Overall, I just think if this defense takes a few steps forward, how is this team not the favorite in the NFC? I get that the 49ers are the 49ers, but they're going through a lot, as I'm sure we'll talk about. So look, we're counting on a few things here. Marcus Davenport staying healthy and being a factor. DJ Reader's coming off an injury, but regardless, I think this defense can take a few steps forward. I'm clearly over on the Lions here.
Yeah, I'll just start off saying I'm clearly over too. I think the Packers and the Lions, if I had to stack up my favorites for the NFC, are my top two, along with the 49ers, throwing them in there, but we'll talk about them in a sec. But those are the teams I think are the best because, like you originally said, it was like, the offense we know, like Jared Goff is a perfect trigger man for it. He's playing a bunch of games indoors this year. I think the stat was 14 out of 17 games indoors this year. That's good. They are going to have a good run game because David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs, and they have a perfect balance of it. It's going to be the 50-50 split. They have rules. Gibbs really came along doing the dirty work stuff. His protection got way better from what it was in college as a pro. And that's what this team does. They trust their development, which is easier said than done. It takes a lot of confidence in what you're doing. Guys you see where that works out is Lee McNeil, some other defenders, but you just talked about Jameson Williams. What I thought was cool with Williams, I should say cool, but what I've noticed throughout was that they didn't just put him in right away when he came from, when he had injury, then suspension. Then go in and go, just run go balls, just run posts, just run deep. They're like, no, we're going to make you run a dig. We're going to make you block. We're going to make you do receiver stuff because we know you could run. Like, we don't have to like prove that. At first, you're kind of like, well, just use him what he's good at. But they're trying to make him better. They're trying to work him into a real receiver where he's not just typecast as one guy. So I'm optimistic about him. I really am about Jameson Williams stepping in because I just think they've asked him and they're going to reap the benefits of that. I'm glad you brought about Aaron Glenn because that's kind of what I came to with the Lions defense last year was they're not good, but at least they try. They always try stuff. He throws stuff against the wall. Like, does this blitz work? No. Okay. All right. Next time we'll get him. Does this blitz work? Oh, it worked. All right, cool. We'll run it again. Like, so I'm seeing so many bad defensive coordinators just, we're going to run cover 4 because that's what we run every play. And they just get snapped in the face. The Packers are a great example. So I think this is a dark horse top 10 type defense just because those improvement on the back end. The front seven's kind of badass, kind of kick-ass front seven. They were 4th best last year against the run in terms of EPA. And they improved with DJ Reader. And so that's just, it's a lot of the stuff, the little in-between stuff that they're adding that makes a lot of sense. You already touched on the DBs, but he's going to run a ton of man coverage. They got a bunch of feisty corners that love living in man coverage. My comparison for Ennis Rakestraw in the draft was a pint-sized version of a Carlton Davis. And then the same team trades for Carlton Davis and drafts Ennis Rakestraw. It was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So,
and Terry Arnold said the thing about my mother was a receiver, I'd jam her into the dirt or whatever. So it's, I think mindset really does matter for a defense that wants to play this way. Last question for you about this defense: with how good do you think of a player can Aiden Hutchinson become? I think that's kind of, if this is going to be a dark horse top 10 defense, I do think that even with all the praise that we're singing for Glenn and some of these guys in the secondary, I do think they will need Hutchinson to maybe take another jump. And, when we were doing the big show that you guys were a part of, the season preview show that that I didn't get to be a part of, I really considered Aiden Hutchinson as a defensive player of the year candidate, just because I think this team is going to be good. I think he's going to have production. Yep.
He's got name recognition.
He's got name recognition. Mm-hmm. They're showing his freaking parents during broadcast, games and stuff like that. So voters will know who he is. So that all combined, that he is a very, very, very good player. I just wonder if he can take yet another step into kind of the elite edge groups in the NFL, which I don't think he's quite a part of yet, but he's obviously, like I said, very, very good.
I struggle with him because I consider him a top 10 pass rusher, top 12, but he's not good against the run. And that matters a lot to me if I'm going to put you as an elite guy. There's a difference between elite pass rusher an elite
Sure.
edge because doing that, and I don't think he's ever going to be really that good at it, just because that's where the arm length comes in. Is not so much when you get pass blocked, it's the run blocking. When these long tackles, Tristan Wirfs, 35-inch arms, just gets him and moves him out of the way, because he's got good size, he's tall, he's decent weight and everything, but that's where it comes up. So I think he's always going to be a threat. He's going to be a double-digit sack guy, I think, the rest of his career. He will get pressures, he will get cleanup sacks. That's why I'm optimistic about all these other guys with him, because he doesn't have to do the dirty work. They can do the dirty work. He could be the sack getter, the star getter. So long. Like, my answer to it is, like, I think he is a very good edge. I just think that because he doesn't play the run well, I can never consider him that kind of upper echelon guy. It's almost like Hendrickson a little bit. I think Hutchinson will end up being better than Trey Hendrickson in his career, but it's kind of like that, where it's like, I respect Hendrickson, I know, but you can just run right at him. Like, any play, just run right at him, and he's kind of a negative. So that's kind of where I end up with him. But having said all that, over Lions, yeah, I'm excited to watch them this year. All that stuff. So we got to talk about Hutch. I know the guy we got Pro Bowl guy, all these accolades, and he's like the afterthought. But let's talk about their defense a little bit. I also want to see Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's going to improve this year. I'm calling that shot. He's going to be a good player this year. I really like him. All right.